Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, beautiful people. I wanted to share some more thoughts today about owning our flaws or me owning my flaws and how that's influenced my life. When I say owning my flaws, I'm talking about shining light on the shadows of my deeds in the past. And I'm not talking about oversharing where I'm sharing my deepest, darkest sins. I'm talking about having the courage and the vulnerability to share things like struggling with alcohol, potentially not being a good partner in the past, depression, even suicidal thoughts. Um, what else? Internal dialogue like feeling like a failure and these sorts of things. And when we shine light on these topics and we share them with people, when we have the courage to share these things, it actually removes their power over us. So I've been on a journey over the last 3 years, but really in the last 7 or 8 months, I've had some massive, massive growth that I'm really grateful for. And a lot of that comes through coaching, but some of the massive breakthroughs that I've had are, for example, I did a deep dive one day when I was trying to figure out why it was so much of a struggle for me to post on social media. Not that that's an issue now, but it was at the time. I used to almost feel physically ill thinking about doing that. And so I was deep diving. I was using journaling as a tool, and I got to the bottom of it and I started crying because it was so overwhelming, but also I cast some light on that shadow, which was that I just honestly did not believe that I deserved any level of success whatsoever. And so if I started changing my story, I started changing my narrative, then I might have some success, and I just did not feel like I deserved that. Another example that I had of a breakthrough is, oh, brain fart. With that realization of deserving success, I started becoming more aware of my inner dialogue, and I caught myself desiring high levels of emotional pain. And what that would do would it would keep me in my story. So I become very aware that I had a story, and I did everything I could within my power to stay within that story. So then, with high levels of emotional pain, I could then therefore justify crashing and burning and hitting rock bottom. And at rock bottom, I knew what I was doing, and I'd start drinking and all of I'd just go on this journey that I was familiar with, and I'd go to rock bottom. And when I was at rock bottom, I knew what I had to do. There was a familiar pattern that I would follow, and I'd quit drinking and I'd start training again. Quite often I'd start vaping again, so I'd have to quit vaping too, and I'd just keep myself stuck in this loop. And then another more recent one that I discovered probably about 6 weeks ago was I feel like I'm not taking this opportunity as seriously as I should. The opportunity of starting a coaching business. And I'm just like, what's going on? And I dug into it. And I realized that I'm a sucker for a get rich quick scheme, and I don't actually want to do hard work. And that was really hard for me to admit to myself. Now, where I'm going with all of this is that when I shine light on these things, and when I've shone light on these things, I've then also turned around and shared them on social media or in public spaces or with people. And the more that I've shared these things, the less those things have had power over me. And the more powerful I've become, the more confident I've felt in myself, and the less shame I have around these things. Now, these things aren't necessarily major, but I've talked about quite a bit also depression and alcohol, struggling with alcohol considerably. I've also struggled with nicotine a lot. And if I haven't already, I am intending to also talk about the Mr. Nice Guy syndrome and how that plays into relationships and stuff like that. So even if I haven't publicly shared these things, I'm talking a whole lot more in my private life with people, not just privately though. I'm quite publicly talking about these things. And it's empowering. And I feel like I'm owning more of my life. And again, I just can't iterate how much power these things had over me that I did not realize, and how much power I've taken back, and how much more confident I feel when I've shone light on these dark areas and owned up to them and had the courage to share them to other people. So, in the process of doing exactly what I'm saying, I am sharing these things and hoping to give value and encourage other people to also take the time to shine light on those dark corners of your inner mind and own them. They are part of who you are. They've made you who you are today, and that is okay. But anyway, I hope that you've all got some value from this, and we'll talk again soon. Cheers, team.